I'd love it if you could do a little bit of a reading. I'm so pleased you chose this bit because it's so powerful. It made me have a lot of thoughts about acting in a way that I hadn't really thought of. So yeah, I'm just really excited to hear it in your voice as well.
Thank you. I love getting to, this is the book and I love getting to hold it.
So
And
shiny.
it's very shiny. Yeah, so this is from the first chapter of the book I'm going to read from, and it's when I was on set of Detroit. Making the movie was a beautiful experience, but the material we were working on was serious, violent, and dark. I was no stranger to dark content in my acting career. It seemed, for the most part, to be my bread and butter. My first professional role had been the anorexic Cassie in the teen drama Skins, and I was currently best known as Gilly in Game of Thrones, a young woman who had had her father's baby. In the decade I had been working professionally as an actor, I had depicted 3 suicide attempts on screen. The first, in Skins, was an overdose, which required me to swallow over 100 Tic Tacs, later vomiting up a sweet, minty liquid in my trailer. The second saw me dragged from a blood-filled bathtub with slit wrists in an ITV drama. The third had me hanging from a tree in a Danish independent film, for which I wore a harness that caused excruciating pain and left angry red welts under my armpits. I was used to crying in scenes, though I still didn't feel I was very good at it. But I knew how to access pain, how to explore and perhaps exploit my own traumas on screen and on stage. I liked roles that were tough to play, both physically and emotionally. I liked enduring for my art. Detroit certainly required endurance. The days on set were grueling. I say days, but we were almost exclusively shooting at night. In scenes, I was grabbed and manhandled and thrown up against walls, and after a week or so, my arms were covered in a tapestry of blue and purple bruises. I refused to acknowledge these bruises as anything other than a privilege. I was determined not to be precious and actressy about it, particularly when I was getting paid to play pretend under the supervision of an excellent stunt team, in the same room as a woman who had experienced the events we were depicting as one of the most traumatic nights of her life. I was determined to be grateful for the incredible opportunity. And I was. I was absolutely happy about everything. I was having the most wonderful time. Until we shot the scene in which my dress was ripped from my body. This was one of the biggest moments for my character, and was a moment Catherine had made me aware of during the audition process, apologizing for the fact the role required some nudity, but saying it was important to tell the story of this incident of sexual assault that had actually taken place. It was Ben O'Toole who played the police officer who ripped my dress off. Lovely Australian Ben. I trusted him. I trusted everyone in the room. That had not always been the case for me on film sets. On the first take, I was trying not to anticipate the fact of what Ben would do, though it was difficult not to. He grabbed the front of my dress, a fistful of the fabric, and pulled hard, and my dress was ripped from my body. The front of it came off in Ben's hand and the back of it fell to the floor. My breasts were exposed to the room and to the camera. I covered them immediately with my arms. Then we did it all over again. And my dress was ripped from my body. And my dress was ripped from my body. And my dress was ripped from my body. It was not real. And yet, it was real. Catherine asked me between takes if I wanted tea, Diet Coke, a tropical holiday. Everyone was being so kind to me, and yet none of that changed the fact of what I felt in my body, which was trauma and anxiety and pain. It was only pretend. It was just my job. It was not real. And yet it was real. And it happened repeatedly. Again and again. So many times that I did not keep count of how many times. And every time my heart was racing. Every time there was pain in my stomach and chest. Nerves on fire. I was trembling with adrenaline. I felt like I had been hit by a car, though I wouldn't admit that to anyone. It was not real. And I was determined to be fine. At the end of the night's filming, I wiped off my makeup with a hot towel, relieved to have my face my own again. Camille, the head of the hair department, gently brushed out my hair and told me I had done a great job. On the steps of my trailer, I drank a beer and smoked a cigarette, before getting in a car back to the hotel, blasting a few loud songs through my headphones, and then crawling gratefully into bed. But then came the dreams. In my sleep, I was back inside the scene, and it was awful and cyclical and repetitive and impossible to escape from as I tossed and turned and tried to wake up. I pulled myself from sleep and sat up in the dark of the hotel room to feel a powerful nausea rising through my chest, through my throat, into my mouth. I made it to the bathroom just in time and vomited violently into the toilet bowl. The next day, my body was all aches and pains, my muscles on fire. I got a massage in my hotel room, and when the therapist encouraged me to make noise, I started howling. When she left, I broke down in tears. I was not quite well, but I was determined to do something about it. Luckily, I thought, I had already found a solution, already made a plan. I was going to go and see an energy healer.
Oh, thank you, Hannah. It was very powerful to hear that in your voice. It's such a moving scene. It's something I've been thinking about a lot since I read it, actually, like the impact that that must have on your body of something being like you being told, this is all pretend, this isn't real, but it is real. I can't even imagine where you put the adrenaline after a scene like that.
Yeah, I think I didn't know either where you put it. And I think it's something that the personal trainer who suggested the energy healer to end up saying to me was, because I kept trying to say it was just acting, it's just pretend. And she said, your body doesn't know the difference.
Yeah.
And that was something I've kind of heard at other times about that being a kind of strange quality that actors have, that it's like your body can't tell the difference between real and fabricated emotion. The response state that my body went into, it was so extreme, it was so physical, it was so kind of undeniable that something was wrong. And as much as my mind could know that this was a fake scene, the physical act of what happened to me was real. That's just kind of a fact. And although the context was completely different from the real event, my body had to experience what it experienced. And so it had a very similar response, I think, to if that had been happening outside of a film set.
And you're also, dealing with having acted out multiple suicides and performing those before you were 30. Like, I also can't imagine the impact that would have on you, especially if, like you say, your body doesn't know the difference.
I think also I kind of say it in that extract that, like, so many of the roles I played were really emotionally heavy. Someone sort of asked the other day whether that was a choice, like it was a conscious thing. And it was like, I was never in the position in my acting career to pick and choose between multiple roles. There were things I said no to because I didn't like the script, but most of the things I said yes to, I was so grateful to be offered work. So it was never a choice about like, oh, I'd quite like to, I kept saying to my agents, I'd quite like to do a comedy now, but they didn't really come up. And so I think there was also a question, kind of maybe going back to the whole identity piece we were talking about at the beginning, of like, what is in me that means I keep getting cast in this way? What do people see when they look at me that means I am right for these kind of roles more than I am right for other kind of roles? And it did feel, in some ways, it felt incredibly easy to access those sort of emotions. And in other ways, it felt that, the consequence afterwards was not very healthy. And it does have, this real physical impact all the time. I mean, like the vomiting, the tic tacs up is like, it's quite a lot to demand your body to do. And then it's also a lot to demand your emotions to take on.
A lot of the characters that you play have had a huge amount of darkness, but I think what often your characters have in common is that they have a huge amount of inner strength that then comes. And maybe that's something that also people see in you as well when they cast. There's that way to look at it too.
That's a nice way to look at it. I like that idea.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for reading.
Thank you.